massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Ambassador Jiwoo Park took a deep breath and stepped forward. Her black formal suit a stark contrast to the colorful robes worn by the alien representatives. The chamber was designed to overwhelm visitors, soaring ceilings that disappeared into darkness, floating platforms arranged in concentric circles, and the constant low hum of translation devices. Jiwoo kept her face calm despite the butterflies in her stomach. This was her first time addressing the full council, but she had trained for this moment for years. Behind her walked Captain Tae-hyun Kim, Earth's military attaché, his posture perfect and his expression neutral. His presence was both symbolic and practical. Earth wanted the council to know they took this meeting seriously. Ambassador Park of Earth, you may approach the central platform, announced a melodic voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Jiwoo nodded and walked to the circular platform in the center of the room. It rose slowly until she was at eye level with the inner circle, the 7 most powerful species in the known galaxy. The light from below cast dramatic shadows on her face. "Thank you for granting this audience," she said, her voice steady. "Earth is honored to be considered for membership in the Galactic Accord." High Counselor Drav leaned forward. He was nearly 8 feet tall with a hard exoskeleton that gleamed under the lights. His compound eyes reflected the chamber in hundreds of tiny images. When he spoke, his mandibles clicked softly. "Earth has made remarkable progress in the 50 years since we first detected your radio signals," Drav said. "Your species has shown great potential. That is why we offer you this opportunity to join our peaceful collective." Jiwoo bowed slightly. "We appreciate the recognition. However, there are certain terms in the membership agreement that require clarification." A ripple of whispers spread through the chamber. New species rarely questioned the terms. "Clarification?" asked Counselor Leth, a being that looked like a cross between a jellyfish and a tree. "The terms are standard for all new members. They have served us for over 10,000 years." Jiwoo nodded. "Yes, and we respect your traditions. However, Section 27 requires Earth to dismantle all military capabilities beyond what is needed for basic planetary security. This would leave Earth defenseless against external threats." "There are no external threats within Accord space," Drav said firmly. "The Accord provides protection to all member worlds." Jiwoo pulled out a small device and projected a hologram. It showed the mining operations on Proxima B, massive machines stripping away mountains while the native population worked in dangerous conditions. "Is this the protection you offer?" she asked quietly. The chamber erupted in angry shouts. Drav slammed a limb down, creating a booming sound that silenced the room. "Where did you get this information?" he demanded, his voice cold. "That's not important," Jiwoo replied. "What matters is that Earth has studied the history of the Accord carefully. We've seen how smaller worlds are treated once they surrender their defenses. The biological harvesting on Tau Ceti A, the forced labor on Kepler 186F, the resource extraction that left Gliese 667 uninhabitable." Captain Taehyun stepped forward, standing beside Jiwoo. His hand rested casually on his ceremonial sidearm, a gesture not lost on the council members. "Humans value peace," Taehyun said, speaking for the first time. "But we have learned through our own bloody history that true peace requires strength and balance. We will not surrender our ability to defend ourselves." Counselor Ziv, a being made of what looked like living crystal, chimed in. "You misunderstand our intentions. The disarmament is a symbol of trust. All members make the sacrifice, do they?" Jiwoo asked, projecting another image. This one showed the massive fleet hidden in the asteroid belt of the Counselor's home system. "It seems some members are more equal than others." The crystal being's surface clouded with anger. "You dare spy on Council worlds?" "We dare to verify what we're told," Jiwoo replied calmly. "Earth has been watching and learning since your first probes entered our system. We played the role you expected, a young, naive species eager for galactic acceptance. But we were never as primitive as you believed." Drav's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "Ambassador Park, perhaps you misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. The Galactic Accord requires all new member species to disarm their military capabilities. It is non-negotiable." Jiwoo's expression remained unchanged. "Then Earth must respectfully decline membership at this time." The chamber fell silent. "Rejection of membership was unprecedented. That would be unwise," Drav said slowly. "Isolated worlds rarely prosper in this galaxy. There are many dangers beyond our borders that Earth is not prepared to face alone. Is that a threat, High Counselor? Taehyun asked, his voice dangerously soft. Merely an observation, Drav replied. The Accord has stood for millennia because all members understand their place in the greater order. Jiwoo straightened her shoulders. Earth understands its place perfectly. We came here hoping for true partnership, not subjugation disguised as protection. We propose modified terms. Earth will limit its military expansion beyond our solar system but maintain our defensive capabilities. Impossible, hissed Counselor Leth. No exceptions have ever been granted. Then, perhaps it's time for new traditions, Jiwoo suggested. Earth brings much to offer. Our art, our science, our unique perspective. But we will not come as servants. Drav conferred quietly with the other council members. The chamber hummed with tense whispers as representatives from hundreds of worlds discussed this unexpected development. Finally, Drav turned back to Jiwoo. The council requires time to consider Earth's unusual position. You have 24 Earth hours to reconsider your stance. I strongly suggest you use this time wisely. The platform began to lower, signaling the end of the audience. As Jiwoo and Taehyun walked toward the exit, an aide rushed up to them. Ambassador, Captain, your transport is ready, the young woman said quietly. Director Cho is waiting for your report. Once inside their secure shuttle, Taehyun finally relaxed his rigid posture. That went about as expected. Jiwoo nodded, removing the small recording device hidden in her collar. They'll attack within 48 hours. Drav can't afford to let our defiance go unanswered. Are we ready? Taehyun asked, his eyes serious. Jiwoo smiled slightly. We've been ready for 20 years. They never bothered to look closely enough at what we were building. They saw what they expected to see, a young species taking its first steps into space. The shuttle accelerated away from the massive council station. Through the viewport, Earth was visible as a small blue dot against the blackness of space. Director Cho has activated Phase 1, the pilot called back. All personnel are returning to Earth or Luna base. Defense grid is powering up under stealth protocols. Jiwoo looked at the distant image of her homeworld. For 50 years, Earth had played the part of an eager, naive newcomer to galactic politics, all while building defenses and forming secret alliances with other oppressed worlds. They think they're giving us time to surrender, she said quietly. But all they've done is give us time to prepare. Taehyun nodded. The Accord has ruled through fear for too long. They've forgotten what it's like to face an enemy who isn't afraid. As their shuttle accelerated toward Earth, Jiwoo thought about the billions of lives depending on her decisions. The Accord expected submission. They would soon learn that humans had other plans. Send word to our allies, she told Taehyun. It's time. The underground command center beneath the Pacific Ocean hummed with activity. Located 3 miles below the surface, the facility had been built in secret over 20 years. Its existence was known only to a few hundred people on the entire planet. Director Hyunjin Cho moved through the main control room with quick, purposeful steps. At 58, her hair was streaked with gray, but her eyes remained sharp and alert. Screens covered the walls, showing Earth's defense systems, space traffic, and incoming data from hidden sensors throughout the solar system. Status report, she called out, her voice cutting through the buzz of conversation. Colonel Min-jae Lee turned from his station. His uniform was crisp despite having been on duty for 18 hours straight. Ambassador Park's shuttle has cleared Accord space, he reported. ETA to Earth is 4 hours. The Accord fleet is mobilizing. 17 warships have broken orbit from their Mars base. Hyunjin nodded, unsurprised. They didn't waste any time. Are our systems ready? The shield generators are at 87% capacity, Min-jae said, gesturing to the main display. Orbital platforms are armed and cloaked. The lunar base is fully operational. And Project Sunstorm? Ready for deployment. If they attack, they'll find we're not the primitive species they believe us to be. Hyunjin allowed herself a small smile. For 50 years, Earth had been preparing while pretending to be a naive, newly spacefaring civilization. The discovery of alien monitoring devices in Earth orbit had been their first warning. Instead of destroying them, they had fed them carefully curated information. Director, called a young technician from across the room. We're receiving a transmission from Ambassador Park. Put her through, Hyunjin ordered. Jiwoo's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined. Director Cho, the council rejected our terms as expected, she reported. High Counselor Drav gave us 24 hours to reconsider, but their fleet is already moving. We've tracked them leaving Mars, Hyunjin confirmed. How did the Council react to your evidence? Angry, surprised. They didn't expect us to know about their operations on other worlds. Jiwoo paused. Drav was especially upset when I showed the images of their hidden fleet. Captain Taehyun appeared beside Jiwoo in the frame. They'll try to make an example of Earth. The Accord can't allow other worlds to see us defy them and survive. Hyunjin nodded grimly. Then we make sure we not only survive but win decisively. The other resistance worlds are watching. If we succeed, they'll join us. What about the civilian population? Jiwoo asked. The Accord might target major cities. Operation Shelter is complete, Minjae reported. 93% of Earth's population is either in underground facilities or has been evacuated to safe zones. The public thinks it's part of the Galactic membership celebration exercises. Hyunjin turned to another screen showing the planet's surface. For years, they had built massive underground shelters, disguising them as subway expansions, shopping centers, and other civilian projects. The public had been told they were preparing for Earth's grand entrance into galactic society. The truth was always going to come out eventually, Hyunjin said quietly. I just hoped we'd have more time. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the command center. A technician called out, Director, 6 Accord scout ships have entered Earth orbit. They're early, Taehyun said from the screen. We're still 3 hours out. Hyunjin's expression hardened. They want to catch us unprepared. Activate defense grid level 1. Keep the main weapons hidden for now, just enough to let them know we're not helpless. Across Earth's orbit, 30 small defense satellites quietly powered up. They had been disguised as weather and communication satellites for years, their true capabilities hidden from Accord observers. Should we warn them off? Minjae asked. No, Hyunjin decided. Let them make the first move. We need the galaxy to see who started this fight. On another screen, a live feed showed the Accord scout ships, sleek, predatory vessels with forward-swept wings and glowing engine ports. They moved into a standard attack formation, spreading out to surround the planet. They're scanning our defenses, reported a sensor officer, and broadcasting some kind of signal to the surface. It's a standard Accord intimidation tactic, Jiwoo explained from the shuttle. They're trying to trigger our primitive defense systems to react, giving them an excuse to attack. Hyunjin smiled coldly. Let's give them something to find, then. Colonel Lee, activate the decoy grid. Minjae nodded and entered a command sequence. Across the planet, outdated missile silos and defense systems, technology from the early 21st century, powered up. They were empty shells designed specifically to be detected. The scouts are changing course, the sensor officer announced. They're moving to investigate the decoy sites. Perfect, Hyunjin said. Now we wait. In the hours that followed, the command center tracked the Accord scouts as they mapped Earth's apparent defenses. Occasionally, they fired warning shots near military bases, testing Earth's response. Each time, Hyunjin ordered no reaction. They're getting bolder, Minjae observed as one scout ship buzzed a naval base in the Pacific. They think we're afraid to fire back. Let them think that, Hyunjin replied. The more confident they are, the more surprised they'll be. A communication alert flashed. It was Admiral Junho Kang from Lunar Base Alpha. Director, the main Accord fleet has passed Mars orbit, he reported. 17 capital ships, including Drav's flagship. They'll reach Earth in approximately 6 hours. Right on schedule, Hyunjin said. Is the lunar defense grid ready? Yes, Director. All systems are green. The fleet won't see us until it's too late. Hyunjin turned to address the entire command center. This is what we've prepared for. In 6 hours, the Accord will learn that Earth is not what they thought. Every person in this room knows what's at stake, not just our planet, but freedom for dozens of worlds suffering under Accord rule. The room fell silent as her words sank in. Some of you have asked why we kept our true capabilities secret for so long, she continued. Why we let the galaxy think we were primitive and naive. Today you'll see why. Surprise is our greatest weapon. A technician approached with a tablet. Director, Ambassador Park's shuttle has docked at Lunar Base Alpha. She's requesting permission to remain there for the battle. Hyunjin considered this. Granted. The lunar base has the best defensive capabilities anyway. On the main screen, a simulation showed the approaching Accord fleet. Their formation was aggressive, designed to overwhelm a primitive world with a show of force. They expect us to surrender as soon as we see their full fleet, Minjae said. They expect wrong, Hyunjin replied. Humanity has faced extinction-level threats before from nature, from ourselves. Each time we've survived by adapting, by being smarter and more determined than our challenges. She walked to the central command station and placed her hand on the biometric scanner. A new screen appeared showing a countdown. Project Sunstorm is now at your command, Director, the system announced. What exactly is Project Sunstorm? Asked a young officer who had only recently been brought into the program. Hyunjin's eyes reflected the light from the screens. For 50 years, the Accord has watched us build primitive rockets and satellites. They've watched us struggle with basic space travel, but they never looked closely at our sun. She brought up a new image, showing thousands of tiny objects orbiting the sun itself, nearly invisible against its brightness. 50,000 autonomous weapon platforms, she explained, built in secret and positioned where no one would think to look. When activated, they can strike any target in the solar system within minutes. Minjae checked his watch. Ambassador Park's 24 hours are almost up. What do you think the Accord will do? They'll demand our surrender, Hyunjin said confidently. And when we refuse, they'll attack. And then, she smiled grimly, they'll learn why Earth was never meant to be conquered. As if on cue, an alert sounded. Director, we're receiving a transmission from High Counselor Drav's flagship. They're demanding to speak with Earth's leadership. Hyunjin straightened her uniform. Put them through. It's time to introduce ourselves properly. High Counselor Drav's face filled the main screen of Earth's command center. Even through the transmission, his compound eyes seemed to glitter with cold confidence. Behind him stood several other Accord officers, their postures rigid and proud. I speak to the leadership of Earth, Drav announced, his mandibles clicking between words. Your time to reconsider our generous offer has expired. Director Hyunjin Cho stood tall before the camera. She had changed into her formal uniform, complete with the simple gold pins that marked her as Earth's defense. Director, this is Director Hyunjin Cho of Earth's United Defense Force. I am authorized to speak for our planet. Drav's head tilted slightly. Where is Ambassador Park? She is the recognized representative. Ambassador Park is safe, Hyunjin replied calmly. I handle military matters. I understand your fleet has taken up position around our planet. A standard procedure, Drav said smoothly. We wish to ensure a peaceful transition as Earth joins the Accord. Hyunjin's expression remained neutral. And if we continue to decline membership under your terms? The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of irritation. That would be most unfortunate. Isolated planets often face difficulties. Space is dangerous. Pirates, resource shortages, environmental disasters. Are you threatening Earth, High Counselor? Hyunjin asked directly. Merely stating facts, Drav replied. The Accord has stood for 10,000 years because all members understand the benefits of cooperation. Your primitive defenses cannot protect you from the dangers of the galaxy. Hyunjin allowed herself a small smile. Perhaps we should discuss this further. Would you be willing to meet in person? We could show you some of our capabilities that might change your assessment. Drav conferred briefly with his officers before turning back to the screen. A reasonable suggestion. I will send a delegation to your orbital station. No, Hyunjin said firmly. If we are to negotiate as equals, we meet on neutral ground. The lunar surface. We have a small base there suitable for talks. The request clearly surprised Drav. Earth wasn't supposed to have lunar capabilities advanced enough for diplomatic meetings. After a moment's hesitation, he nodded. Very well. A small delegation will arrive at your lunar facility in 3 hours. Prepare to receive us. The transmission ended and Hyunjin turned to Colonel Minjae. They took the bait, she said. Alert Lunar Base Alpha. I want Ambassador Park and Captain Taehyun to lead the meeting. Is that wise? Minjae asked. Putting our diplomatic team so close to their fleet? The lunar base is our most fortified position, Hyunjin reminded him. And I want our best people facing Drav when he realizes he's been deceived about our capabilities. 3 hours later, Ambassador Jiwoo Park and Captain Taehyun Kim stood in the reception area of Lunar Base Alpha. Through the reinforced windows, they could see the stark beauty of the lunar landscape. Earth hung in the black sky, a blue jewel that seemed both fragile and precious. They're approaching, Taehyun said, checking the base's sensors. 1 shuttle, 6 life forms aboard. Jiwoo straightened her formal jacket. Remember, we need to keep them talking long enough for Director Cho to finish final preparations. The airlock cycled, and High Counselor Drav ducked through the doorway. In person, he was even more imposing, nearly 8 feet tall with an armored exoskeleton that shimmered with iridescent colors. 4 other aliens followed him, each representing a different Accord species. Ambassador Park, Drav said, his translator converting the clicks and hisses into human speech. This lunar facility is unexpected. Our intelligence suggested Earth's moon bases were still in early development. There's much about Earth that might surprise you. Jiwoo replied with a polite smile. Please follow me to our meeting room. She led the delegation through corridors that hummed with activity. Drav and his team looked around with increasing confusion, noting the advanced technology and the confident efficiency of the human personnel. The meeting room offered a spectacular view of both the lunar surface and Earth. As they took their seats, Jiwoo noticed Drav studying the room carefully. These facilities are not consistent with your reported technological level, he said bluntly. You have deceived the Accord. We have protected ourselves, Taehyun corrected. Earth has learned from history that new civilizations are often exploited by more established powers. Jiwoo placed a small device on the table. It projected a holographic display of the solar system, showing the positions of the Accord fleet. Your 17 warships are currently surrounding Earth, she said. This is not the approach of a peaceful organization seeking new members. Drav's mandibles clicked rapidly. A precaution only. If Earth has nothing to hide, there is nothing to fear. We have nothing to hide anymore, Jiwoo said, pressing another button on the device. The hologram changed, now showing hundreds of small objects in orbit around Earth and the Moon, objects that had been invisible until now. Our defense grid, Taehyun explained, 300 orbital platforms, each capable of disabling a warship the size of your flagship. Drav stood abruptly. Impossible. Our scans detected nothing like this. Your scans found exactly what we wanted them to find, Jiwoo said calmly. For 50 years, Earth has been preparing while presenting the face you expected to see. One of Drav's officers leaned forward to whisper something. The High Counselor's compound eyes flashed with anger. This deception will not stand, he hissed. The Accord will not be mocked. At that moment, alarms began to sound throughout the base. A young officer burst into the room. Ambassador, the Accord fleet has opened fire on our satellite network. Jiwoo's eyes met Taehyun's. They had expected this, but not so soon. It seems diplomacy has failed, she said to Drav. Your ships fired first. Remember that. Drav's posture became threatening. You will surrender your hidden weapons or face the full might of the Accord. Your primitive planet cannot stand against us. Taehyun touched his communicator. Director Cho, the Accord has initiated hostilities, requesting activation of Sunstorm Protocol. Understood, Captain, came Hyunjin's voice. Sunstorm is active. Protect the ambassador. The lights in the base dimmed momentarily as power was redirected. On the holographic display, new objects appeared, thousands of them, emerging from their hiding places near the sun. What is this? Demanded Drav, his voice losing some of its confidence. Project Sunstorm, Jiwoo explained. 50,000 autonomous defense platforms that have been hiding in plain sight, using the sun's radiation to mask their presence. Outside the windows, space itself seemed to come alive. The seemingly empty void around Earth shimmered as hundreds of defense platforms deactivated their cloaking fields. The orbital weapons that had been invisible to Accord sensors now gleamed in the sunlight. On the holographic display, they watched as the Accord fleet scrambled to raise shields. They had been caught completely unprepared, their weapons focused on the decoy satellites. You should return to your shuttle, High Counselor, Jiwoo suggested. What happens next will depend on whether your fleet stands down. Drav's alien features were hard to read, but his rigid posture conveyed his fury. This treachery will not save you. The Accord has conquered worlds far more advanced than Earth. Perhaps, Taehyun said, but none quite as determined. The base shook slightly as the first shots were fired in orbit. On the display, 3 Accord warships had launched attacks against Earth's defense grid. Director Cho, Jiwoo called into her communicator, the Accord delegation is returning to their shuttle. Ensure they have safe passage back to their fleet. Acknowledged, came the reply. Defense grid is responding to Accord aggression. First countermeasures deployed. In space above them, Earth's defense platforms fired in perfect synchronization. Beams of concentrated energy sliced through 3 Accord warships before they could fully raise their shields. The remaining vessels scattered, attempting to regroup. Drav watched the display with what appeared to be shock. Your weapons. They penetrated our shields as if they weren't there. Phase-shifted energy beams, Taehyun explained, designed specifically to counter Accord shield technology. We've had 50 years to study your systems. As the Accord delegation hurried back to their shuttle, Jiwoo called after them. High Counselor, this can still end peacefully. Order your fleet to withdraw. Drav paused at the airlock. The Accord does not retreat. You have made a grave mistake, humans. After the shuttle departed, Jiwoo and Taehyun returned to the command center of Lunar Base Alpha. The battle was unfolding on multiple screens around them. This is Ambassador Jiwoo Park of Earth. She broadcast on all frequencies. Your unprovoked aggression has been met with appropriate force. Withdraw immediately or face complete destruction. On the main screen they could see the Accord fleet in disarray. 7 of their 17 ships had already been disabled or destroyed. The others were attempting to regroup, but Earth's defense platforms were too numerous and too well positioned. They're targeting the lunar base, reported a sensor officer. 3 warships approaching fast. Taehyun nodded calmly. Activate lunar defense grid. The surface of the moon came alive as hidden weapon emplacements rose from the dust. The approaching Accord ships hesitated, clearly surprised by this new development. They really had no idea what they were attacking, did they? Jiwoo said quietly. No, Taehyun replied. They saw what they expected to see, a primitive world easy to conquer. They never bothered to look closer. As the battle raged above them, Jiwoo thought about what would come next. Win or lose, Earth had changed the galaxy today. The age of Accord dominance was coming to an end. 3 days after the battle, the remains of the Accord fleet hung in Earth orbit. Of the 17 warships that had arrived so confidently, only 5 remained operational. The others drifted as silent hulks, their crews evacuated to Earth's orbital stations where they were being treated as honored guests, not prisoners of war. Ambassador Jiwoo Park stood at the window of her office in Geneva, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. The events of the past few days had changed everything. Earth had not only survived the Accord's attack but had won decisively. Her communication device chimed softly. Ambassador, the Council is ready to receive Earth's transmission, her assistant reported. Jiwoo took a deep breath. Thank you. I'll be right there. The main conference room had been transformed into a broadcasting studio. Director Hyunjin Cho and Captain Taehyun Kim were already there, reviewing their notes. Large screens showed the Galactic Council chamber, where representatives from hundreds of worlds waited nervously. Are you ready? Hyunjin asked as Jiwoo entered. As ready as I'll ever be, Jiwoo replied. This is the moment we've been working toward for decades. Taehyun handed her a data tablet. The latest reports from our allies. 7 more worlds have pledged to join our alliance if today goes well. Jiwoo nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. This wasn't just about Earth anymore. It was about all the worlds that had suffered under Accord rule. Let's make history, she said simply. The technicians counted down, and the transmission began. Jiwoo's face appeared on screens throughout the council chamber, and on thousands of worlds across the galaxy. Greetings to the Galactic Council, she began, her voice calm and clear. 3 days ago, an Accord fleet attacked Earth after we declined membership under terms we found unacceptable. That fleet was defeated. Murmurs spread through the council chamber. Many representatives had not yet heard the full story. Earth does not seek war, Jiwoo continued. We sought only to protect our sovereignty and our right to self-defense. Today I come before you not to gloat over victory, but to propose a new path forward. The camera pulled back to show Hyunjin and Taehyun standing beside her. Earth proposes a new agreement, Jiwoo announced to the stunned council. We will share our defensive technology with any world that wishes to protect itself from exploitation. We will establish a new alliance based on mutual respect and true cooperation. High Counselor Drav, who had survived the battle, rose from his seat. His once proud posture was now stiff with barely contained rage. You cannot possibly hope to stand against the combined might of the Accord, he declared. One battle does not win a war, Jiwoo smiled. We already have, and we're not alone. At her signal, representatives from 7 other worlds stood from their observer seats in the council chamber. Each wore a small pin showing Earth's blue and green colors. "The Terran Alliance is already formed," announced Representative Suna from Proxima B. She was humanoid, but with pale blue skin and large, expressive eyes. "We reject the Accord's peace built on subjugation. For generations you've preyed on worlds you deemed primitive," Hyunjin said, addressing the council directly. "You never considered that one of us might be hiding our true capabilities, waiting and watching." The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some representatives shouted in anger, others in support. Many simply looked confused and frightened. Councillor Leth, the jellyfish-like being, raised his tendrils for silence. "This is unprecedented. The Accord has maintained peace for 10,000 years. Peace for whom?" Taehyun asked pointedly. "For the founding worlds, perhaps. But what about the resource worlds, the labor worlds, those classified as protectorates who have no voice in this chamber?" On cue, images appeared on the council screens: the mining operations on Proxima B, the biological harvesting on Tau Ceti A, the polluted oceans of Kepler 186f. Evidence that Earth had been collecting for decades. "We do not seek to destroy the Accord," Jiwoo said, her voice cutting through the noise. "We seek to reform it, to create a true galactic community where all worlds have equal rights and protections." A new figure stepped forward in the council chamber, Councillor Ziv, the crystalline being who had been so angry during Jiwoo's first appearance. "What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador Park?" he asked, his voice surprisingly calm. Jiwoo nodded to Taehyun, who activated a holographic display showing a new treaty document. "The Treaty of Terra," Jiwoo explained. "A new framework for galactic cooperation. Key provisions include: 1. All worlds maintain their right to self-defense. 2. Resource extraction must be approved by local populations with fair compensation. 3. All sentient species have equal representation in galactic affairs." "Impossible," Drav exclaimed. "The founding worlds have earned their privileged position through millennia of leadership." "Leadership?" Hyunjin questioned. "Or exploitation disguised as protection?" Another council member, a small furry being with 6 limbs, spoke up. "What happens to worlds that do not wish to join your Terran Alliance?" "They are free to remain with the Accord," Jiwoo answered. "We force no one to join us, but we will defend any world that asks for our protection from exploitation." The chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. Earth was not just challenging the Accord, it was creating an alternative. "And if the Accord refuses your terms?" Drav asked, his voice dangerously soft. Jiwoo's expression remained calm, but her eyes hardened. "Then Earth and its allies will stand apart. We will defend ourselves if attacked again. But make no mistake, we prefer peace. The choice is yours." The transmission paused as the council requested time for private deliberation. In the Geneva conference room, Jiwoo finally allowed herself to relax slightly. "That went better than expected," Taehyun said. "Did you see how many representatives were nodding along with our proposals?" "Don't celebrate yet," Hyunjin cautioned. "The founding worlds won't give up their power easily." Jiwoo's communication device chimed. "Ambassador, we're receiving transmissions from 23 worlds requesting immediate membership in the Terran Alliance." 23? Taehyun repeated, surprised. "We expected maybe 10 or 12. "Word spreads fast," Hyunjin said with a small smile, "especially when it's news of hope." After an hour, the council requested to resume the transmission. The chamber looked different now. Many representatives had changed seats, clustering together in new groups. Councillor Ziv spoke first. "Ambassador Park, the council has discussed your proposals. While we cannot accept all terms immediately, we are willing to establish a working group to negotiate a new framework for galactic cooperation." Drav's mandibles clicked in obvious displeasure, but he remained silent. "That is acceptable," Jiwoo replied. "Earth will participate in good faith. But understand that the days of forced disarmament and resource exploitation are over." "There is one condition," Ziv added. "Earth must demonstrate its defensive technology to prove it can truly protect its allies." Jiwoo glanced at Hyunjin, who nodded slightly. "We will provide a demonstration," Jiwoo agreed. "But not all our capabilities. Some secrets must remain as insurance against future aggression." "Reasonable," Ziv conceded. "The working group will convene in one standard month on neutral territory, the station orbiting Tau Ceti. As the transmission ended, cheers erupted in the Geneva conference room. Staff members who had worked in secret for years finally saw their efforts bearing fruit. Jiwoo turned to Hyunjin and Taehyun. This is just the beginning. The hard part comes next, building something better than what came before. Hyunjin nodded. The Accord won't give up easily. They'll try to divide us to turn our allies against us. Let them try, Taehyun said confidently. Our strength isn't just in our weapons. It's in offering a better way forward. Later that evening, Jiwoo stood on the balcony of her apartment looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there, the news was spreading from world to world. Earth had stood against the Accord and won. A new alliance was forming, one built on respect rather than fear. Her communication device chimed again. It was a message from Suna, the representative from Proxima B. The first ships have arrived, the message read. Our people are celebrating in the streets. For the first time in generations, we have hope. Thank you, Earth. Jiwoo smiled as she looked up at the night sky. The galaxy was changing and Earth was leading the way. 1 year after the battle that changed the galaxy, the great dome of Lunar Base Alpha gleamed under the stars. Once a secret military installation, it had been transformed into the headquarters of the Terran Alliance. The massive, transparent dome offered a breathtaking view of Earth hanging in the black sky, a constant reminder of what they were fighting to protect. Inside the central chamber, representatives from 32 worlds gathered around a circular table. The room hummed with dozens of languages, all seamlessly translated through small devices worn by each delegate. At the head of the table stood Ambassador Jiwoo Park, dressed in a simple blue suit that had become the unofficial uniform of Alliance leadership. Today marks a historic moment, Jiwoo announced, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. The final treaty between the Terran Alliance and the Galactic Accord is ready to be signed. She gestured to the document displayed on the table's holographic surface. With this agreement, the Galactic Accord recognizes the sovereignty of all Alliance worlds and renounces all claims to their resources. The former High Counselor Drav stood opposite Jiwoo. His once imposing presence had diminished over the past year. The defeat of his fleet and the defection of dozens of worlds from the Accord had cost him much of his power. Now he served as the Accord's peace envoy, a position that would have been unthinkable before Earth's victory. The Accord agrees to these terms, Drav said, his voice flat. We recognize the Terran Alliance as an equal power in galactic affairs. A murmur of satisfaction ran through the chamber. Many of the representatives came from worlds that had suffered under Accord rule for centuries. To see the mighty Accord forced to treat them as equals was almost beyond belief. Jiwoo activated the signing protocol. The treaty glowed with a soft blue light. As is our tradition, each world will sign in alphabetical order. Aldebaran, you are first. One by one, the representatives approached the table and placed their hands on the document. The treaty recorded their biometric signatures, binding their worlds to the agreement. In the observation gallery above the main floor, Director Hyunjin Cho stood beside Captain Taehyun Kim, watching history unfold. Did you ever imagine this outcome when we first detected their probes? Taehyun asked quietly. Hyunjin shook her head. I expected war. I never expected to reshape the galaxy. Humanity has always been good at surprising others, Taehyun replied. And ourselves. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of General Minji Lee, recently promoted for his role in Earth's defense. Director, Captain, he greeted them with a nod. The security sweep is complete. No threats detected. Thank you, General, Hyunjin said. Any news from our intelligence network? Minji's expression grew serious. Some concerning reports from beyond Accord space. The Vex Dominion has been watching our conflict with great interest. Their scout ships have been spotted near our outer colonies. Taehyun frowned. The Vex. The Accord always used them as the bogeyman to frighten member worlds into compliance. Stay with us or the Vex will get you. Except they're real, Hyunjin said, and potentially more dangerous than the Accord ever was. Below them, the signing ceremony continued. Earth's turn came and Jiwoo placed her hand on the glowing document. On behalf of Earth and humanity, I affirm this treaty, she declared. When Drav's turn came, he hesitated briefly before placing his clawed hand on the treaty. The chamber fell silent, watching this final symbolic surrender of Accord dominance. On behalf of the Galactic Accord, I affirm this treaty, he said, his mandibles clicking softly. As the last world signed, the treaty pulsed with light and copies were instantly transmitted to every world in both the Alliance and the Accord. Cheers erupted throughout the chamber. Representatives embraced or performed their species-equivalent gestures of celebration. Jiwoo raised her hands for silence. Today marks the beginning of a new era in galactic history. For 10,000 years, the Accord ruled through fear and control. Today we begin a different path, one of cooperation and mutual respect. She gestured to Drav, who stepped forward reluctantly. The Accord acknowledges its mistakes, he said, clearly struggling with the words. We look forward to a more balanced relationship with all worlds. After the ceremony, Jiwoo joined Hyunjin, Taehyun, and Minjae in a private meeting room overlooking the lunar landscape. Congratulations, Ambassador, Hyunjin said warmly. You've achieved what many thought impossible. Jiwoo smiled, but her eyes showed her exhaustion. This is just the beginning. Making peace is harder than winning a war. Speaking of wars, Minjae said, we need to discuss the Vex situation. He activated a holographic display showing a star map. Red markers indicated Vex activity along the borders of Alliance space. Their ships have been probing our defenses, he explained. Nothing aggressive yet, but they're clearly assessing our capabilities. Just as we once studied the Accord, Taehyun noted. Jiwoo studied the map thoughtfully. What do we know about them? Not much, Hyunjin admitted. The Accord kept most information about the Vex classified. We know they're a highly militaristic species with technology at least equal to the Accords. They control about 200 star systems on the far side of the galaxy, and they've been at a stalemate with the Accord for thousands of years, Minjae added. Neither side strong enough to defeat the other outright. But now the balance has shifted, Jiwoo said, understanding dawning. With the Alliance splitting from the Accord, the Vex might see an opportunity. Taehyun nodded grimly. They might think we've weakened each other enough for them to move in. Then we need to show them otherwise, Hyunjin said firmly. The Alliance and the Accord may have our differences, but neither of us wants Vex expansion. Jiwoo's communication device chimed. Ambassador Representative Suna requests to join your meeting. She says it's urgent. Send her in, Jiwoo replied. Suna entered, her blue skin pale with worry. Ambassador, we've received a transmission from the Vex Dominion. They're requesting a meeting with Alliance leadership. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They've never requested diplomatic contact before, Hyunjin said finally. Not with the Accord, not with anyone. What exactly did they say? Jiwoo asked. Suna activated her own device, projecting the message. The translation was simple and direct. The Vex Dominion acknowledges the Terran Alliance. We request dialogue, coordinates and time to follow. It could be a trap, Minjae warned, or an opportunity, Taehyun countered. If they're willing to talk rather than attack, that's significant. Jiwoo studied the message carefully. We'll meet them, but not alone. I want Accord representatives there as well. Drav won't like that, Hyunjin said with a slight smile. Drav doesn't have to like it, Jiwoo replied. But he'll agree because it's in the Accord's interest too. Neither of us wants a Vex invasion. Later that evening, as the Earth rose over the lunar horizon, Jiwoo stood alone at the Great Dome's observation deck. The past year had been exhausting. Endless negotiations, building trust between former enemies, establishing the foundations of the Alliance. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to see Taehyun approaching. Shouldn't you be celebrating? He asked. Today was a great victory. I'm just taking a moment to appreciate it, she replied, gesturing toward Earth. From up here, you can't see any borders. Just one world, beautiful and whole. That's what the Alliance is trying to build, Taehyun said. A galaxy without the borders of fear and exploitation. Do you think we'll succeed? Jiwoo asked quietly. The Accord ruled for 10,000 years. The Vex are watching our every move. We're trying to change the way an entire galaxy thinks. Taehyun stood beside her, looking out at the stars. A year ago, no one believed Earth could stand against the Accord. Now 32 worlds stand with us, and even the Accord itself has changed. Jiwoo smiled. When I was appointed ambassador, they told me my job was to secure Earth's membership in the Accord. No one expected me to turn down their peace agreement. You saw what others missed, Taehyun said. That true peace can't be built on submission. Below them, in the main chamber, the celebration continued. Representatives from worlds that had been enemies for centuries now talked and laughed together. It wasn't perfect. Old hatreds and suspicions wouldn't disappear overnight. But it was a beginning. Tomorrow we start planning for the Vex meeting, Jiwoo said. Another challenge, another chance to change the galaxy. One step at a time, Taehyun agreed. That's how humanity has always moved forward. As night fell on the lunar base, lights began to appear across the Earth's dark side. Billions of people going about their lives, most unaware of the galactic changes happening above them. But they were safer now, protected not just by Earth's hidden defenses but by a growing alliance of worlds united by respect rather than fear. Jiwoo thought about the words she had spoken at the treaty signing, words that would be remembered for centuries. Today marks the beginning of true galactic peace, not one enforced through fear and subjugation, but built on respect and equality. Earth didn't turn down peace. We redefined it. As she looked out at the stars, Jiwoo knew that somewhere out there other civilizations were watching, learning that the galaxy was changing, and that humanity was leading the way.